Welcome. This will be my video on the current 2025 movie Black Phone 2. I'm going to start with a review that will only spoil the first movie. There's almost nothing I can say about this one that will not spoil the first movie at all. And I will get into spoilers at some point, but I will warn before I do so verbally. So if you haven't watched the movie, you can safely watch the review itself. So, I should start by saying this movie is rated R, so will this video be. And yeah, I fucking love this movie. Goddamn, Scott Derrickson. I don't think you're watching, but if you are, please don't stop making these until you just feel like you have nothing more to new to offer, because so far, god damn, you are knocking it out the park. Yeah, been a fan since Sinister 1. These just, yeah. Scott Derrickson is the rare writer-director where I actually go to the fucking movie theater these days to watch something that isn't, like, part of a franchise. And yes, I realize this is technically a sequel, but I did also watch Deliver Us from Evil. That had no connection to anything else. Um, yeah, that there are no other movie that yeah. So I'm not going to give too much away about the setup here, but I will say they do a good job of making it distinct from the first one. And I thought they made some really smart choices that I will talk about in the spoiler section for how it yeah. This is a movie I watched it with a pretty packed theater. This was opening night here. I think Americans might have gotten it sooner. I'm not entirely sure. And there was a woman sitting right next to me um, throughout the movie. Like, we were all gripped like vice tight. When the credits rolled on this movie, there was a deep sigh of relief from the woman sitting next to me, because it's like, oh, thank God, Jesus Christ, that was a lot, It wasn't like, oh, finally, she didn't hate the movie based on, yeah, just vibes. It definitely seemed like I didn't hear anyone like riff it, or like didn't notice anyone on their phone or anything. Everyone was just completely focused on the movie. I think I guess that's what I can say about the setup. The psychological accuracy and authenticity are tremendous. One of the main things I loved about this, it really does explore the ramifications of the events of the first movie. I think I did mention in my video on the first one. I wasn't the first person to make this observation, but slightly disturbing that the first movie kind of equates growing up and becoming an adult and such with a capacity for violence. The fact that in order to become a man, Finney literally has to murder a serial killer. Well, kill a serial killer. You know, he doesn't like accidentally spill something on the floor that the killer, slips on and falls and breaks his neck. No, he fucking, beats him to death. I'm not saying it wasn't justified or something. In movies, in real life, I'm opposed to violence. Violence should be the absolute last resort. In movies, it can be very cathartic. I'm not saying that I didn't get any kind of cathartic thrill out of watching him kill a killer, but the way that the movie kind of makes it seem like, if you want to join, adulthood, that is, not necessarily killing, but violence. And this one actually goes into it. It explores, really, I think every major character that returns is explored in some way. And I thought they did a fantastic job on that. It's one of those things, Scott Derrickson, when it comes to sequels, is a bit hit and miss, so other than this, there is the second Sinister movie. And yeah, just okay. I hope it's not too much of a downgrade in quality. It says there's some kind of issue. I've already, it says the computer is struggling to keep up. I've already closed every program that I'm not using, so unfortunately, it's not really anything else I can do. Let's see. Yeah. So, explores every major character that returns, and yeah, I really appreciate it. Like, they do actually follow up on, the first one. It's one of those things, if you, like, the first one does stand alone really well. It doesn't feel like it needs a sequel, but this is one of those sequels that tries to add so much that it's worth it. And yeah, there are some of the sequel things that, yeah, I think, I guess that's technically a spoiler. I'll just say, it does do some of those things that sequels sometimes do, and it doesn't always work out for it. Now, I think that pretty well brings us to the, let's see. Yeah, so the ending of the first one, it's very ambiguous. Their father, do they forgive him for how because he begs forgiveness. He admits that he was wrong. He was abusive. And in this one, we do see, yeah, it's not really a spoiler to say, he is more, like, relaxed in this one. He was very intense in the first one, So it's no longer about that kind of trauma. It's more the trauma. It is still about trauma. It's a horror movie made today. Yeah, I realize there's exceptions. I'm not gonna pretend, but a lot of horror movies today are about trauma. And yeah, the what's the word? It's a different kind of trauma. It's about it's the trauma of the the events of the first one, And yeah, so this first one was set in the 70s. This one's set in the 80s, and they still do a fantastic job on period detail. And I really appreciate that they don't pretend that because like the actors aged, obviously, like I think 4 years in real time. I read somewhere that they're supposed to be 3 years older, which might fit with when it was filmed versus whatever. It acknowledges that they aged, and they're not exactly the same people that they were last time, but it feels organic. It feels like, okay, this is what they would be like after the events of the first one. And I guess it's not really a spoiler to say. So, Finney is still capable of violence, willing to engage in it, but is that always a good thing? And Gwen, now that, like, by the end of the first film, it's pretty clear, okay, these visions can actually help. They did, yeah, they made a difference in so yeah, like there's a she's perhaps more embracing, like in the first film, when she got them, it was specific to, she was having these, dreams, visions about the grabber, and it ended up helping her find Finney. And that means there's a very immediate kind of thing. In this one, the first time that she has one, it's not about something that is quite as immediate. I think that is as much as I want to say without spoiling, but yeah. And there's actually, like, she's like, well, I know it's real, what I dream about is real. So what do I do about it? It's not about, whether or not it is real. So I quite appreciated that. It's very much, it's one of those sequels that really tries to build on what the first was, not taking away from it, and not trying to, like, yeah. I think that is what I want to say about that. The level of detail, holy shit. There's some Scott Derrickson continues to deliver just spectacular fucked up shit. He's been doing it at least since Sinister, possibly further back. I guess his Hellraiser movie had some of that stuff. I just don't think it's super good movie, but he got a lot better since. A lot of people, their their earliest work is not absolutely perfect, and it's not like, I don't think I've seen a good Hellraiser sequel, period. The second one, somewhat. And I acknowledge I haven't watched all of them. It's possible at least one of them is good. Let's see. I watched 1, 2, 5, 7. I think those are all the ones that I watched. I don't think I watched any of the others, and just from what I hear, they're not worth... The first one is a fucking masterpiece. Anyway. This has some of the most fucked up shit that I've ever seen. Scott Derrickson continues to really deliver, to top himself in that. Like, I would say Sinister 1 has more of the fucked up shit, but at least one of the things we see in this is more fucked up than the most fucked up shit in Sinister 1. I don't know if, like, Sinister 2... Yeah, I think it's at least about the same level. That was one thing that movie did have going for it. I still don't think that movie is, like, the worst. The dialogue, they continue to god damn it, Gwen's dialogue, her insults are just so fucking good. And her potty mouth, which is remarked upon by other characters, just wonderful. I think that might more or less... this continues to have supernatural elements. This one, there's at least one supernatural element that is different from what we get in the first one, in a very interesting way that fits with what we got in the first one. It doesn't feel like, oh wow, now it's just all of a sudden a completely different kind of thing. You know, it feels like a very natural next step, and it feels thought out. It doesn't feel, you know, that was again Sinister too. Like it's yeah, I mean the studio must have said, you know, it must have been like for him a way for him to like you know, increase his profile. It does feel like he's doing his best writing that movie. He didn't direct it. But yeah, Sinister One. That I don't know that you can make a sequel to it. Like I don't know how you would make more movies than that. I do appreciate Detective So and So returning. You know, I really like that actor and everything I've seen him in. Scott Derrickson gets some of the best out of him. Yeah. One of the big things with Sinister 2 is that it's unnecessary and it's basically impossible to, you know, properly follow up Sinister 1. It tries, it does a fair, you know, but this one, it really doesn't feel like they struggled at all to make a sequel that makes sense. So, the direction, as usual for Scott Derrickson, is very assured. I've remarked before that he has this, you know, when he was announced for Doctor Strange, um, you know, let's see, had the second, I forget if the second Sinister had come out by then, but certainly the first one had. And the thing that, like, Scott Derrickson, he has this knack for crafting this a supernatural horror, a supernatural story. It's not always horror, where it feels grounded to where, like, it feels like we are witnessing the real world, and there's just this very porous boundary between the natural and the supernatural, you know. And yeah, it works incredibly well here as well. The cinematography and editing, there are some decisions that I fucking love. Like this, I don't know if Scorsese has watched this, but I think he might call it absolute cinema. There are scenes where they will just plant the camera and just let the actors deliver dialogue and fucking act, man, and it's glorious. I'm so glad we're still getting movies like this. God damn, I swear there was a while where I thought we're not gonna get any more good fucking movies. Good movies, you know, if I want to watch a good movie, I gotta watch something from decades past. But no, they are still doing shit that's this, like, goddamn, they understand. You know, yeah, sometimes you just let the actors deliver. You know, if the writing, acting, and shot composition are good enough, then yeah, like there was one bit, I think there was 3 minutes with no cut, just actors acting, just fucking amazing. Um, Other than that, they're still doing that wonderful thing. I'm so glad it's back. When Gwen has a dream. I mean, I guess it's basically. See, I can never remember. I think it's maybe like 8 millimeter or something. It's like a specific kind of film where it's very high in grain, and there every so often there the cigarette burns and everything. Like, it's just, we realize that we're witnessing a dream, that doesn't mean that they can't do something interesting and dynamic with it. They do. And yeah, also just the fact that, yeah, like Finney, fully accepts, yeah, sometimes she has these dreams, and what's in them is true. It helped her find him. It would be pretty fucking ridiculous if he. I'm so glad they didn't try to regress his character, because that's again. I fucking hate when sequels. It's like, well, we did this thing and people liked it. I don't know. I guess we got to do it again. So let's just make characters forget that they saw the thing, so that they act the same. They act like they haven't seen it before again, and it's such bullshit. And this movie doesn't do it. There was no time in this movie where I felt like, okay, this was written in a really awkward way just because they wanted a similar kind of thing. Like it's very distinctly a sequel to the first, but it's not a retread. It's not trying to just do the exact same thing. There's riffs on stuff from the first one. It, like, I was very satisfied with it as a sequel, not just as a movie. And I mean, it doesn't have to be great at both, but it's nice when something is. Yeah. I think that. Let's see. I feel like there's some other. The editing. There's this thing where it could easily get difficult to follow, and they managed to prevent that from happening. Just fantastic. Very impressive. Yeah, I am not sure there's really any decisions in cinematography and editing that I just hugely disagree with. Yeah, let's see. I think that might cover that. Yeah, I guess I'll say like the first one, it's not trying to be scary all the time like the Sinister movies. I've already talked about the issues with Sinister 2. I will admit, Sinister 1 times feels a little try hard. It's like, somebody turn on the fucking light. What is this? I think it works, but I'm willing to acknowledge that there's, yeah. Let's see. Okay, I don't want to give it away. I'll talk about it in the spoiler section. I will say there's an element here that I think Scott Derrickson sometimes... fuck, I guess if I say it, you might be able to tell from other videos I've done on his movies. I'll just say there was something that really impressed me in this one. Yeah, the production value is fantastic. There is this, I guess, yeah, they do something with setting that I thought was fantastic. Set design, locations, costumes, and makeup are all on point, and they do a really great job having these things communicate something about the characters. The places that they live or work, and how they have it set up, and what they themselves look like and such. The music is very ominous and harsh. Again, like the first, like the Sinister movies. It's one of Scott Derrickson's greatest strengths. He understands that one of the most effective tools you have if you're trying to scare people is the audio, the sound side, which segues us nicely into the sound design. And my God, yeah, this has some of the nastiest, gnarliest, gross fucking sounds that any Scott Derrickson movie I've watched. Fucking love it. So I've pretty much talked about... I guess I'll say I cared about every character. I'm not going to pretend like I liked all of them, but I wasn't supposed to. And there wasn't any that just felt like, oh, they're just there. There's no, point to them. And yeah, I'm not going to pretend like everyone has an arc, but I did think that they did a good job on, there are characters that do. And I really love that, shit, my wrists are too fucked right now to check, but, so the kid who played Robin in the first one, obviously can't, Robin can't be alive in this movie because he fucking died in the first one. But the actor returns playing the younger brother of Robin, and I love that because he was one of the best parts of the first one. Which again, Derrickson, like he looks at his own movies and he's like, okay, what worked, what didn't work, and just yeah, really appreciate that. I think it's fairly rare for him to make the same mistake more than once, And yeah, like that kid, fantastic in the first one, amazing in this one. So glad that and like I really appreciate like so his name is Ernesto or Ernie. He is not the same as Robin, and you do get the sense that yeah, like this, you can shit. I forget if they mentioned if they mentioned him having brothers in the first one, but certainly um I don't think it takes anything away from the first movie that he had a brother that we didn't, that we're now seeing. And you do like Robin was one of those badasses. He was, shit. That makes it sound like I admire him. He was a tough kid in the first one. He was someone who beat other people up. And when you meet Ernesto, you kind of see, oh, maybe Robin was like trying to scare people away from bullying Ernie. So that's a really great, and the kid just fucking nails it. I've said it before, but it bears repeating. We are in a golden age of like child actors and teen actors. Like it's been so long since I watched something recent where there was a child actor or teen actor who was anything less than stellar. Like there's movies where like entire scenes were fucked because the child actor wasn't very convincing, and I don't really blame them. I am on the fence about I sometimes I feel like maybe we shouldn't have child actors or teen actors. Maybe we just let, kids and teens have a normal, healthy childhood and young adulthood, and then when they become adults, they can enter acting and fuck their lives up. Hopefully not that last part, but like we've seen so many child actors, like it's I feel like at this point isn't it more the exception than the rule for a child actor to actually turn out all right? Like there are some, but anyway, yeah. If we're gonna have them, I appreciate them being really talented. Again, I don't blame child actors and teen actors who are bad. I feel like it's up to the adults and their lives to they're like their agents. Sometimes those are the parents. Should maybe just be like, this isn't really working. Don't put a kid in front of the world. At least not if they're not incredibly talented. Now, I think yes. Real quick. That does also go for family vloggers. Do not put your kids on the internet. Just don't fucking do it. I get that you need to make money. We got to do something about capitalism because like, don't put your kids on the internet. Just don't fucking do it. Now, I think that pretty well covers characters. I guess I'll just note, yeah, really liked seeing I'm sorry, I'm probably gonna fuck up his name. Demian Bichir, if that's how you pronounce it. Just yeah, love him in absolutely everything I've seen him in. And yeah, the acting is really, really strong across the board. There was not a single bad performance. I think there might be at least one character that some people are going to be like, oh, fuck that actor. But it's like, that's the character though. Like I'm fairly confident that's just the writing and the direction. That's what the character's supposed to be like. We gotta normalize. Do not hate an actor for a character they portray. Like, short of okay, tell you what, if an actor who has a choice plays a role that is like going to incite hatred towards a minority, I can understand hating them. I hate. We should try to avoid hate in general. It's just not constructive, productive. But yeah, if you dislike an actor for playing a character that could make people hate a certain type of person who's already marginalized, yeah. But other than that, like, just because you don't like what the character does is not a good reason. You also shouldn't hate the writers and directors. Now, the pacing. The first one is already a little slower compared to something like Sinister. I was surprised, but not necessarily in a bad way. Again, that's the thing. Like, I already mentioned, Sinister 1, perhaps slightly try hard. Like, not every single second of a movie needs to be, horrifying, even if the genre is horror. And yeah, with these two movies, he is doing, he is slowing things down and still terrifying us when he goes for that, But yes, this is slower than the first one. And I think it depends on if you cared about the characters in the first, if you cared about the family unit, perhaps especially the two siblings, I think you're gonna stick with this one as well, because it is very much about yeah, their characters. There's exploration of them, also others, but they are the core, the focus, and I think that's why it still works, because there definitely are parts of this movie that are yeah, slower. Now, these special effects. God damn. Okay, so there is some practical effects here that are fucking amazing. The CG, I think without fail, is seamless. Like, I know, okay, some of that has to be fucking CG, but there was no time where I was like, okay, that's obviously just a computer, effect, which, like, today, with some Hollywood movies, everything's computer. Now, yeah, the horror, I think they do a really solid job using the sort of what's the word? Like the meat and potatoes of some approaches to horror. This is one of those movies. Remember when horror used to do this more frequently and like, okay, there are still some movies that do it, but I do think some recent horror movies sometimes, I don't know, sometimes I wish they would slow down just a tiny bit. This is one of those horror movies, like, 80s and 70s horror, where a character will slowly move towards something to investigate it. And we're sitting there just like, oh no, something's gonna go wrong. There's gonna be something horrible, And yeah, I'm sorry, I don't think we should retire that. Like, I'm not saying every horror movie should have it. There are some recent horror movies where I'm glad that they don't go for that kind of thing. But no, I do. I that is something that I'm really glad is still at least sometimes around in horror, because there's so much you can get out of that, and let's see, I think it does a really solid job of using like tension and suspense and like building towards something. Like it doesn't immediately show something really horrifying, and that again, Scott Derrickson's really fucking good at just like, because yeah, um the Sinister movies do have some really fucked up shit. I think the second one is a little worse at the following, but the first one does, like, if you think back to it, if you really think, well, it doesn't immediately go like all the way in, it does build towards it, like we remember the especially fucked up shit because that's, that sticks in your mind. But if you actually watch it and pay, like notice how it doesn't immediately show, okay, one of the first thing, I guess the first thing it shows is fucked up, but that's just like an appetizer. Then there's, yeah, we meet the characters and we see the setting and such. It doesn't immediately jump into, and this one as well, which does make it feel more earned. There are horror movies out there with more gore. Like I would say, Jason X almost definitely has more gore than this. I don't think it's anywhere near as effective, and I don't know, maybe it wasn't supposed to be. I just recently watched, God damn it, what's his name again? Ah, shit. Okay. This, I gotta, God damn it. Okay, I'm sorry. I swear I'm not going to spend forever on it. So there was let's see, how do I best find, so I know he just did this movie, so shit. Yeah, I guess maybe this is not gonna, I swear I am not going to spend forever just looking for it, but god damn it. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. What if I search for the, maybe this will help. What the fuck? Okay. Shit. Yeah, maybe I just won't be able to find him anytime soon. Okay. Um Shit. Yeah. Um okay. I think I'm just gonna have to, I'll just note that, yeah, one of my one of the people I'm subscribed to um recently ranked the Friday the 13th movies, and he noted that Jason X is actually funny, perhaps unintentionally so. Um, oh, I think I remember his name now. Hold on. Zach Milne Talks Movies. Yeah. Um, in general, I've been watching him for a little while. Pretty happy with. I think he uh, makes really great videos. Um, anyway, yeah. Uh, this one, like, yeah, the violence and gore, it's not constant. It is very, it goes hard. And when it's there, like, because of the buildup and because of the sparing use of it, because it's not like, if it feels, the movie creates this sense that any moment now there could be something terrifying, um, without only playing that note, And so, yeah, when there is something, yeah, it really hits you hard. And yeah, I think it. I know not everybody likes the violence and gore and bloody, disturbing shit has gotten so intense in recent movies. I don't blame anyone who says they just can't watch horror movies today because it's just too much, you know. And certainly, you know, if you only want to watch horror movies from some decades ago, there's so many amazing horror movies. You know, it sucks that it's a genre that's looked down upon because I do think a lot of the best movies ever made are horror. Uh, Videodrome, The Fly, 1986, The Thing, 1982. You know, Halloween, 1978. So anyway. I think, let's see, I guess this is a good time to mention, intellectual, maybe I should practice saying that. I'm a big fan of her channel. I've been following her for years. She recently did a video talking about the history of, let's see, was it sex and horror or something like that? But you know, if you go to her channel and search for sex horror, this is going to pop up. I'm fairly confident. Yeah, she noted, you know, well, there was this study that said, oh, you know, watching horror movies made these men more misogynistic, and she notes, well, we live in a misogynistic culture, though. Can you actually, how do you separate that from, you know, is maybe horror becoming a scapegoat for that? You know, I'm not the like an expert on that, but I mean, I think she makes a really good point there. Now, and at the risk of, you know, okay, let me just submit a tiny sliver of anecdotal evidence. I'm not saying that should count, you know, for like more than, you know, um, yeah, obviously a study, an actual credible study would be great. If there is one, if there is at least one out there, please link me to it. I'd love to read it. But I can say personally, and I've seen others point this out, some of the people, you know, of the people I know, some of the ones that watch and enjoy horror are some of the most loving people. You know, like, it feels silly to, after saying that, include myself in that, but I guess I kind of have to. I've shown my dad a lot of horror movies that he's really gotten into. He's also quite fond of The Thing, for example. We recently watched The Fly. He was quite into that. Same for Videodrome. Um, yeah, like some of the most loving, like, just, you would never guess of that. Like, there's a lot of people who are very surprised when they find out that I love horror movies. Um, yeah, like, it didn't make us less that, you know, we watch horror and we sympathize and empathize with the people in danger, you know, and like, yeah. But again, obviously a professional scientific study is better, um, more credible. Anyway, yeah, uh, I think that the fact that recently we've gotten some incredibly disturbing stuff, and I guess I should say, I am not gonna pretend like all of it is, you know, great. Like, let's see. I guess I haven't actually watched an Eli Roth film, so I'm not gonna like pass judgment on them because I'm not the right person to. I will just relate that I have heard others say that they feel like his movies are like go too far. People who otherwise love horror say that his movies go too far, and I do think that it is possible to. But again, like in my opinion, it is primarily about, well, is it trying to make look fun something that in reality is really fucked up? Because obviously misogyny, violence against women in fiction can get really, really fucked up. Um, yeah, I do think that some of the things that we've seen in recent horror movies, it's just, what's the word? The fact that they can go so far means that they can touch upon very taboo subjects. And I think that's crucial. Like, we have to talk about things if we're going to be able to solve problems. So, yeah, I really love that about a lot of recent horror. Yeah, okay, it feels silly to say that and not give examples. Clock, Matriarch, Fresh, and Barbarian. I think all of those movies, they go to really fucked up places, but they also have something really important to say, you know? Yeah. Yeah, things that we don't usually talk about because it's like, oh, no, we can't talk about that. That's a little too upsetting. Well, if you don't talk about it, it just gets worse. It festers. And I don't think that this movie is trying to make us think that any of this violence is fun. It's very, very disturbing, and like, I don't know. I mean, if you watch the first movie, you already know the grabber is a serial killer. So yeah, there's some serial killer shit in this movie. And obviously, if that's not your kind of thing, there's nothing wrong with not liking that. Yeah, I would just recommend against watching the movie. Now, I do think that they use it well. I don't think it's ever gratuitous or excessive. There's one part that gets close to being excessive, but it stops short. There, according to, I did a Google. Apparently, there is no mid or post credit scene, and I don't think the movie should have it. So I'm glad. Um, I think that does more or less cover. Let's see. I guess I have to mention. So, religion, particularly Christianity, definitely comes up once or twice, perhaps more, in this movie. Some people did not like that. I thought it was fine. I am an atheist, but I am no longer an anti-theist. I don't hate religion or religious people. I think there's a lot to criticize about Christian conservatives and conservative white cishet men in general. I didn't think that this was. I didn't feel like the movie was trying to convert me. Deliver Us from Evil was. Like, it's very clear from these movies. Scott Derrickson himself does. I'm not going to speculate as to his exact relationship to Christianity, but certainly he seems more in favor of it than particularly critical of it. And, obviously, if that is going to bother you, yeah, the movie might not be for you. Same for Deliver Us from Evil. Again, I didn't have a problem with it. I'm trying these days to be a little more open to religion. And obviously, as a progressive, I do really, really love some of the stuff that Jesus said. I wish conservative Christians would actually, love their neighbor. I've seen a lot more of that from Muslim immigrants from the Middle East to here, the West. Yeah. Now, I think that does bring us to, so, yes, my ranking of every movie that's written and or directed by Scott Derrickson that I've personally watched, worst to best, and I do love them all, except for his Hellraiser movie. Hellraiser number something, I don't know, I think it's 5 or, I guess it has to be either 5 or 7. I mean, I think even if my wrists weren't fucked, I don't know that I would bother looking it up. Who cares? But yeah, his Hellraiser movie. Sinister 2, Deliver Us from Evil. Black Phone 2, Black Phone 1, Doctor Strange 1, and Sinister 1. And that brings us to my rating. Yeah. 8 consequences of a traumatic experience out of 10. And that brings us into the thoughts section. So from here on out, I will spoil absolutely everything in this movie. So if you're still watching this video, I'm trusting that you already watched the movie as well. So I guess, honestly, I think... Okay, I will start with a couple of, overarching, I really loved the choice to make, I guess I'll just briefly note, so I talked about, long takes. Gwen talking to Ernie in bed, long take, I think might have been 3 minutes. Yeah, fantastic, because the elements are strong enough that you don't need editing, you don't need flashy visuals. I also really appreciated the way that once the three of them are talking, the entire family is talking, after he arrives and he's saying, let's get out of here. And they're putting all the cards on the table, and it is actually allowed to play out. It doesn't feel the need to, make it flashy. I really appreciate it. So, the first movie, Finney is captured for a lot of it. Gwen is trying to find him. The extremely boring retread, fucked way to do this would have been, now Gwen's the one, who has to be found, and Finney suddenly realizes, maybe he also has visions or something. That would have been so fucking boring. And there's so many movies that do exactly that. So I'm really glad this didn't. Like the idea of having them snowed in this isolated place, and there's this small cast of characters, and just the expansion on Gwen's dreams, just so clever. I love these little, so I'm not the first person to observe, there's definitely some riffing on, the first one did some you've got the yellow raincoat, you've got balloons. This one uses some The Shining. And I'm sorry, but it's an incredibly effective horror movie. It's a classic for a reason. I'm not saying it's perfect. I know Vera from Council of Geeks really hates it. Did a video talking about all the reasons why, and I'm not saying that she's necessarily wrong. I understand her perspective. And if you haven't watched them, the College Humor videos about The Shining, they write Shining but with CH instead of just H or SH. Yeah, whatever. Right, and Jacob Geller, as usual, Geller, equals stellar. Fantastic video. Let's see, what was it called again? 3 hours, 3 games, 3 cursed computers. Just fucking amazing video. Yeah, I think that might pretty well bring us to the, let's see. So what's the other thing? Where were we? There was the snow. Yeah, so you've got some chasing in the snow, violence, axe, um, with an axe. You've got just the fact of being trapped in this fucking isolated place that's shut down because of something or other, and it's also kind of interesting. Like, these movies have fairly little in common with Friday the 13th, but I'm sorry, you're telling me so some of the main characters are like sort of working at a resort that's supposed to have young people, but the young people haven't arrived yet, so or the kids haven't arrived yet, so we're just watching danger for people like that. That was very interesting. I feel like that's gotta be at least slightly intentional. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've said it before. I think those movies, the Jason movies, are perfectly fine fast food. They give you what you're there for. I'm willing to acknowledge, yeah, they did help make the violent horror movie a thing. Um, I'm I always love Halloween 1978 more than any Jason movie so far. I don't know. I guess it's not impossible. They'll eventually make a masterpiece one, but Halloween 1978 didn't do as much with violence and such. It wasn't trying to. And those movies did. And now we're having, even more violent movies. So, yeah. I liked the, so yeah, in the first one, she has the dreams, the visions. And it's, in the first one, she'll have the vision, dream, wake up, and try to act on it. In this one, they add sleepwalking, and I thought that was an inspired addition, because it doesn't contradict the first. It's just, yeah, her gift is progressing. In this one, she can actually like interact with, she does things. She's not just witnessing things in her dreams, as was the case in the first one. The first one is like finding clues to the location. Love that Detective so-and-so, that actor, I mean, comes back and says, watch out, he's got the axe in the head. Just like, I'm so glad that Scott Derrickson is as happy working with Detective so-and-so as I am watching him, because, like, I fucking love when he shows up in these movies. Like, Jesus Christ. Both Sinister movies, both Black Phone movies. God, I forget if he's in Deliver Us from Evil. But just, yeah, fucking absolutely love it. And the fact that, yeah, Finney is trying to like find out, okay, so do I wake her up? At one point he follows her, or more than one point, I guess. He'll follow her and then wake her up, and just the this thing of like, so she'll see something that is only there in like the ghost, yeah, it's there as a ghost, but it's the ghost that can, affect the world, and remain unseen by anyone other than Gwen. So it's up to her to find a way to stop it. It just really, really nicely done. And the fact that, yeah, Finney, he's like standing there, he's smoking weed, he sees the grabber, and then Gwen comes out, and we see her more objective POV. The grabber's not there, but he can't stop thinking about it. Just wonderful, little bit of visual storytelling. Okay, I'm gonna go scene by scene pretty soon. I think I want to briefly say, so the thing that I almost said in the review, but I realized would be too much of a clue. I was going to say something that I think he usually doesn't do that well. This is probably the best he's done with it. The Ghost Kids. I don't know. He learned from the other ones. This is my favorite of the. I'm still not 100% sure if I want Ghost Kids in his films, but if they're gonna be there, this is how I think they should be done. They were consistently creepy. You know, um, in the other movies, he'll use them in a way that means they end up no longer creepy. So really glad that he is not doing that here. Uh, yeah, I think that might. So others have already pointed out this is very Freddy Krueger, the best Freddy Krueger action that we've gotten um, since Freddy versus Jason, in my opinion. Yeah, not a fan of the remake. I guess I'll just briefly note. So depending on when you catch me, my favorites are 1 and 7 or 2, 3, and 4. I think 5 has interesting elements. 6 is not a complete waste. There's, the map says we're fucked. Like that, like a couple of other things. I think the remake has very little of interest, but I did an entire video on it, so I'm not going to get too much into it here. But yeah, I really appreciate it that this didn't go as far as a lot of Freddy does. I'm going to try not to either not spoil or I'll warn and hold up a finger while I'm doing it. But yeah, yeah, Freddy, the surrealism goes, gets more like theatrical, maybe operatic is the right word. Here, it is more grounded. It is always about the dead kids or the 3 family members, or 4 technically, if you count their dead mom, and the grabber. It's always focused on that. It never gets as fantastical, and I think that was the right choice. I would like, I don't know, maybe someone needs to get the rights to it away from what the fuck are they called again? Crystal something, Michael Bay's, because I'm sorry, but they don't fucking know what to do. Okay. Not everything sucked about the Friday the 13th remake, but the Freddy one was quite bad. I would like to see Blumhouse get the rights and do something with it, because I was pretty happy with the H40 Halloween trilogy. I know I'm not saying everything was perfect. I get some people were very frustrated and disappointed. Anyway, yeah. I think for the grabber, it works well to do it like this. And I really appreciated that they really are not sequel baiting. I don't know that there's any way to make a third one. I hope they don't. I also hope they don't try to capitalize on and say, oh, let's make a prequel where we see, WBH in, yeah, at the camp, and we see the events leading up to him killing those 3 kids. No, just this is a perfect place to end it, because by the end of this movie, the various characters are in a really good place in a way that, the first one, it was a little bit iffy on the thing about, violence is part of becoming an adult. And then this one acknowledges, violence has consequences, social, psychological. And I think that might more or less cover the overarching. Let's see. God, I feel like there's at least one more overarching thing. I don't know. I guess I can handle it later in the video if I yeah. I guess I will just briefly. Yeah, I think the moment that I saw the trailer, when I heard, oh, they're making a Black Phone 2, I was like, how. And then we see the trailer, and they include the line, dead is just a word. You more than anyone know the dead is just a word. Because, like, yeah, I mean, shit. If ghost kids can communicate through the titular black phone, why can't the grabber, continue doing violence despite being dead? I don't think it's like a huge reach. So, and the fact that they specifically say, oh, but there's a very clear solution to it. That's also something I'm not saying every horror movie needs to have it, but I appreciate when they do. They don't realize right away, but over the course of the movie, they realize, oh, if we find the missing kids' bodies, he will lose all his power. We can kill him, and that'll be that. Um, yeah, so fucking glad Ethan Hawke. Goddamn, I really hope he does more villain roles. This is not the only villain role I've seen him take, but there's just something about it's the fact that his face and natural voice have this almost angelic quality to them. Um, it was obviously more prominent when he was younger, but like I haven't watched everything he's been in, but I think the earliest thing I've watched that he was in, I'm pretty sure is Dead Poet Society, not Bad. I guess that's what people who hate that movie call it, Bad Poet Society. But yeah, um, and that is obviously quite, uh, an aspect. But even as he's, I mean, I don't know, he's obviously a little older now, and it's not exactly the same, but there is still some of it there. And when he perverts it into a sadistic grin, or when he like changes his voice a little to make it sound threatening, there's just something to, like, it feels like a fallen angel. There's it feels wrong. It feels like corruption, and there's just something about that is, I'm not saying it's necessarily better, but it's a very different flavor to, sometimes you'll watch a horror movie and you see the actor and it's like, okay, this person like came out the womb evil, that they're, yeah. Um, so yeah, love his performance in these, and I thought they did a fantastic job on really not overusing him. He wasn't overused in the first one either, but he was in more of the first one, and it is this thing of like, yeah, in this one, he is gradually trying to become increasingly powerful, and it's kind of working for a chunk of the movie. He does come very close to winning. I also think it's very interesting. The grabber doesn't really kill in the present day in either of these movies very much at all. Like in the first one, there was Robin. I guess he doesn't kill anyone in the present in this one at all, does he? Um, yeah, I really appreciate Scott Derrickson's realization that, hey, you don't actually need the evil being to or character to kill, at least not very many in the present, for them to be really, really off-putting. Like so much of the first movie is Finney, he's like, yeah, the grabber will come down and be wearing one of the masks variants. Love that they implemented the various, there's one point where like Gwen gets sort of the upper hand, then he's got the frowny mask after, even though he didn't before she got the upper hand. But yeah, he'll be wearing one, and he brings food, and Finney's like, what's in it? And he's like, salt and pepper. And there's at least one point where he's just staring at Finney for a while, just these little things, yeah, we don't even see Robin killed. We just find out that he, I think we see him grabbed maybe, and that's it, so yeah, like, shit, I think in the first movie, like, there's almost more violence when that kid freaks out about the pinball machine. I think it is something like arcade machine, arcade game. Then like okay, there at the end, there's some violence, beating the, but yeah, and the first one has the several, um, yeah, fights and beatings. Yeah, I think that's the overarching. Yeah, so scene by scene. Yeah. Um, I kind of fucking love the opening because I had no clue who this was or who she was talking to, but it just fucking worked. And then later it's like, oh, so was she talking to Gwen or was she talking to that other, because it seems like yeah, it fits for both, the responses given and such. And just, yeah, like immediately we're hooked because, like, she says, oh, this number, it was written in ice, and yeah, um and it's a clever, so she's the one making a call, and in the first one it was always that Finney would hear the phone and answer it. He didn't make a call himself. And yeah, um and then there was also, we see, 1957, okay, so this is before the events of the other, and then we go to 1982, and the thing you show a character doing as the first thing can really define the character in the audience's mind. You're gonna have to work very hard to change their perception of the character after that. And yeah, the first thing we see Finney do is beat a kid. It's not a fight, it's a beating. Maybe it was a fight before. And Gwen is there and she's like, Finn, what are you doing? And he's like, keep hitting him. And yeah, like he keeps punching this kid over and over and drawing more and more blood. And yeah, like at least some of the crowd are into it. And then, he rushes off. Gwen catches up to him, and it's, and he quotes Robin, you got to draw blood. That satisfies the crowd. I was sending a message, and it was like, don't fuck with me or something like that. And he also says, stay the fuck away from me, to the kid. And Gwen points out, you've been sending that message a lot lately, because the first movie taught him violence is the solution to problems. So now he's just applying it willy-nilly, and yeah, it's sad but true, and it's something we have to work on. Like, we have to change the culture. It shouldn't be seen as positive when men engage in violence. It should be a last resort. Um, yeah, I thought they did a fantastic job on that. Like, he was giving Pete Hegseth, like, Jesus Christ, kid. Um, yeah, I think. Yeah, and the thing about, don't you think Robin would want you to watch out, watch over his little brother? And then Finney takes it to a really gross place, and she calls him out on it, and yeah, the several cars pass, and then one of them slows down to like follow, and Ernie's like, hey, so I got tickets, and I booked a venue. They do have, a facility for carrying out weddings. I picked out a ring. Seriously, though, this kid, see, that's how, like, if you really like someone and you want to go on a date with them and you feel pretty confident that they're going to be receptive to it, yeah, like, shit, buying tickets and being like, so, hey, I already have the tickets. Maybe you'd like to join me there, like, yeah. And it is very true. Finney's like, that's a date, right? And I love his face, like, when, yeah, like, he doesn't interrupt the courting, but as soon as it's over, like, and you can see on his face, he's like, nope, this is not fucking happening, just, yeah. Um, I think that is, and it is also, yeah, it's very protective older brother kind of thing to do, especially when the younger sibling is a sister. Um, and it's again this bullshit toxic masculinity. Like he thinks he's like protecting her, and she's like, but I like Ernie. I want to, like she doesn't want to admit that it's a date, but later she is clearly receptive to it. Like maybe she doesn't want to put a label on it yet, but like she likes him. So what the fuck's the problem? But yeah, um, I really appreciated the way that they tackled that because, like, yeah, at the end of the day, like the first movie feels a little like it's saying, well, toxic masculinity maybe solves some problems, which in real life, of course, it doesn't. It causes them. Now, and again, it is absolutely a culture. It's not a cultural issue. It's not something inherent to us men. Um, and yeah, we can work to change the culture around young men. I think I think it was Dead Domain who pointed out, there's talk of like a male loneliness crisis, and yeah, Jordan of Dead Domain pointed out it's not a male loneliness crisis. We just have a lot of young men who don't know how the fuck to behave, how to not treat women like shit, um, and alienate people. And if we all just agree, we can actually solve the culture. Toxic masculinity is never going to make you happy. Bigotry is never going to make you happy. It's just going to drive up more and more anger. I get that it feels like, oh, you have a goal, you have something to focus on, but it's not healthy. It's not going to work. Like the things that actually lead to happiness, there have been studies on this. You don't have to take my word for it. Look up the studies. The things that make people happy are positive, loving relationships with other people, community, and feeling like the things you're doing are helping other people. Yeah. Let's see. I think that is so. And those are also goals. Those are also things you can do and you work towards. Just like try to like maybe if you're struggling to make friends or find a partner, I'm sorry, but maybe look at if your personality is what's bothering them. Because like there's so many people out there who don't give a shit about like your height or how many muscles you have or shit like that. They want someone who makes them feel safe, who listens, who tries to help them, um, who gets along with the men in their lives, who makes them laugh. Like that's the thing. I've seen so many men, who embrace toxic masculinity and misogyny, who think that if there's another man in the room, they have to dominate them. And there's so many women who are like, I'm so happy that my male partner gets along with my brothers and father. Like that's what they want. They don't want conflict. Conflict, you shouldn't seek out, you shouldn't seek to create conflict. If you find a conflict, try to resolve it, but don't create it where it doesn't have to be. Anyway, um, yeah, too much individualism. It's poison. Now, I think that does. Yeah. So the let's see. Yeah. After that, so yeah, we see at home, the dad checks in on Finney, and he's like, so I'm going to bed. Don't stay up too late. And he doesn't even look at what's on TV. He just knows, you're watching TV again. Pretty significant difference. In the first one, Finney wasn't allowed to stay up late. He wasn't allowed to watch scary movies. And he actually had a very negative reaction when he did watch one, at least part of one horror movie. And I really appreciate that by the end. So yeah, in the first movie, it ends with him begging their forgiveness. And I can totally believe, and it happens in real life sometimes, if someone has been abusive to someone, they'll like go way too far in the other direction. Like obviously you shouldn't be abusive. If you are struggling with not being abusive to others, maybe you need help. There's nothing wrong with seeking out community, getting professional help. There shouldn't be any shame there. Everybody needs community. It's healthy. We are social animals. But yeah, he goes way too far in the other direction. He ends up, he was abusive and controlling of a parent, and now he is lenient, and by the end of the movie, it's become clear, like, yeah, he let go too much. And like Gwen even points it out, you knew he was smoking. You can smell it on him. I'm not being a narc. Everyone knows. Everybody knows. And yeah, obviously don't be abusive to the people in your lives, but also don't, if you're trying to be a parent, like those are teenagers, he does have to make boundaries, like once your offspring are adults, at that point, unless they're engaging in like destructive shit, let them live their lives. But when they're kids or teenagers, you gotta set boundaries. Otherwise, they're gonna struggle to accept boundaries later. Yeah, and elsewhere, not even only later. And yeah, you don't want to be abusive. You don't want to be just accepting of every super lenient as a parent. There's a Goldilocks zone there in the middle, and you should try to aspire to that. An area within which it is acceptable to steal food from someone else, provided that the temperature of it is to your liking. And yeah, Finney follows Gwen, and yeah, she goes all the way to where the grabber held Finney, and picks up the phone and communicates with her mom, and it's such a great, because like I really loved the way they handled the mother in this. I thought they did a fantastic job. Yeah, letting Gwen actually communicate with her, because she's the one who was the youngest. She is still the youngest, but she was very young. She was too young when it happened. She didn't get to properly say goodbye, and she really, really needed that. And to give her that, I think for that alone, this movie has a reason to exist. It has others as well, but that was such a, yeah. God damn it, Scott Derrickson's so talented. As is God damn it, I forget his name. Shit, I'm sorry. His writer or co-writer for the movie, also fantastic. Now, let's see. I'm not trying to like auteur theory this shit. I know it's a lot of people coming together to make a movie. It's not one person's vision. Now, I just think Scott Derrickson is really great at guiding and listening to the ideas. I guess this is a perfectly fine time to plug Vera Council of Geeks video. What was it called again? Lily Norwood won't work in Hollywood, or so. It's called something along those lines. Certainly, it has the name, the or AI actor, something like that, But yeah, she makes a really great case against why. Yeah, just a really, really great video. Now, I think, doesn't that? I feel like, yeah. So yeah, she's on the phone, and yeah, it's very clear she's talking to the other, and we don't. I don't know. Maybe we were supposed to, but I didn't get immediately that was their mom. Let's see. Yeah, and Detective so and so, the brother character, and and then we hear some steps on the stairs, and she turns around, and it's just Finney. He's there to wake her up so they can go home. Um, yeah, I really thought they did a fantastic job just sprinkling in appearances by the Grabber um, in the early parts of the movie before he attacks anyone in the present day. I mean, and yeah, the nightmares about the kids, like Jesus Christ. So one of them was stabbed. One of them was, like an axe, and so like his head was split. The part of like violence and gore wise that fucked me up the most was the bit where like his head is started, part of the head is slipping off, and then the window goes down to chop the head off, so really it lands, and there was a little movement in the half face, mouth moving, like it was trying to accept, was I just fucking murdered? Am I being, and it's that thing of like, because some conceptions of hell, the person who died is reliving their death over and over. So that's essentially what's happening. So he is technically sort of still alive, even if his head has been cleaved like that too. So yeah, I guess they're more in purgatory because their bodies weren't found, because they do go to heaven. That Mom confirms it there at the end. Um, but yeah, really, really effective, and especially because like we also see these scenes of happiness from the kids. They're happy at the table. It's like, yeah, and then suddenly murder. Very effective. Yeah, I think that brings us to the the next morning. She's like, well, we should go there. The Grabber. There's something there. My visions are telling me to go there, and I love that Finney isn't like, your visions don't make any sense. They're not real. They're not actual events. No, he's just like, I don't know if I think this is a good idea. He never challenges that what she's seeing is real, and yeah, I fucking love that. We gotta normalize, men believing women, because sometimes media just needs to encourage good behavior. There's too many in the real world, too many men not believing women. Yeah, so the and I did quite like, so yeah, Dad comes in and, so what's up? We're considering going to this Jesus camp. Might be a way to make money. Glenn, that's what you said, right? Because Finney accepts them, but does Dad? He's still like, it's still a little iffy. That was one of the really big, when he hit her, and I'm obviously not saying it was her fault, but that was the trigger for him when she talked about her dreams. So Finney is basically thinking, maybe, yeah, maybe he shouldn't know, and he doesn't necessarily think that Dad's going to become violent again, but it's that thing of like, he's in like AA, is what yeah, because he said, I'm getting the chip for 3 years. That's AA. So he is working on it, but might he end up drinking? And like Finney even says, right before he leaves, don't get drunk while I'm gone. He's, how much is it going to take to convince you? It's been almost 3 years. In 2 weeks, it'll have been 3 years, but Finney still thinks, if I don't watch him every second, he might steal bread, or drink. And yeah, the part where, so yeah, Dad trying to lay down the laws and take good care of my daughter. Yes, sir. And uh, can you drive 55? Yes, sir. Do you ever say anything else? Yes, sir. I mean, that was pretty funny. And like both of the men of the family stand there with crossed arms, like, oh, I don't fucking like this. This kid is not going to spend time alone with this, young woman. She's a teenager, and I'm protecting her. I just, yeah. And ultimately Finney does agree to go with, and yeah. Let's see. Right. Also so right before that, we have the bit where so she's sitting there, at the desk, and like the other girls are like whispering about her. She's a witch, and trying to figure out, is a witch made of wood? Maybe if we weigh her against a duck, I think that's gonna work. And Ernie comes up, oh, so you've got a lot of books on the occult, so you're into that witchy stuff, huh? Define witchy stuff. And he just lays it out, and then she's like, yeah, I'm into that. And he's like, cool. Because he's just like, he likes her, And he's like, oh, okay, sure. Here's some tarot cards. Yeah, just if you want to go barefoot, I don't know, the I think there's a good place around here to, shit, what was it called? Scry. And I found a nice pot, not the kind your brother smokes. And yeah, so they drive, and there's a lot of snow. And so, very clever with he goes out and walks in, or runs in front, so they can see him because he can see the road. And they manage to get all the way there, and then they're told, you were not supposed to come. We called all of you, and I guess we missed you. Here you are. You're the only ones of the young people here. And yeah, like, we spend a significant chunk, I guess the entire third of the movie, maybe, oh shit, maybe 2/3 of the movie, I guess, just in this one place. And it's basically just these characters, the people that work there. And yeah, so they arrive, and they're let in, and Demin Bichir shows up. I half expected him to tell them, okay, when you close the door, you have to hold it shut, otherwise it's going to be really difficult to close. You got me. I have a laissez-faire attitude about the hats. I don't know. It's just weird to me that these are. I think I've seen him in at least one thing that isn't this, but the fact that if I had a nickel for every time he appeared in an amazing genre movie that was made fairly recently, where they're like snowed in, and it's a relatively small group of people, and there's a mystery, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's worth it. It happened twice. And I think that does bring us to the yeah. I like the talking to Demian, and Ernie's like, speaking I guess Spanish. I'm sorry, I'm not the best at. I don't mean to be offensive if it's a different language. Sorry about that, but he speaks a language other than English to Demian, and it's clear that the Mando. Don't know where Grogu is in all this, but yeah, the two of them, have a brief conversation. They said, where'd you get those tattoos? In prison. And just, yeah, that was a really good, and I think that does bring us to, so the yeah, I also really like that as soon as Dad hears, they call him and tell him, and he's like, well, it's snowing a lot here. And then, he calls his friend, calls in a favor, and he gets a snowplow. And he actually gets to them much sooner than would otherwise. Does just, yeah, I really appreciate, like, he does clearly love his kids, and I'm not saying that, if someone in your life is abusive, I'm not saying you have to love them, or that, like, oh, they must really love you. That's really toxic. I'm not going there at all. I'm saying, it's very clear, at least now that he's no longer abusive, no longer drunk, no longer an alcoholic, he does love his kids and really, does what he can to protect them. And yeah, that does bring us to the thing about, so they get they have to sleep in separate places, and, you know, um, Mustang isn't allowed to sleep in the same area as Gwen because she's not trained yet. Um, so yeah, no one's watching Gwen at first, which is dangerous. But she does. Let's see. Yeah, she goes to the boys' cabin, and is next to Ernie, and it's a fantastic scene, and I really appreciate, like, ultimately, yeah, they like undercut the moment there at the end, but we get to feel it. Like, this feels like how two teenagers who kind of like each other, but like, what I feel like Ernie's very sure about it, and Gwen is like pretty sure, but she, yeah. Um, I definitely don't get the sense that she's just like being pressured into it. Like, she does actually like him. Um, obviously consent is extremely important. And yeah, um, the conversation still has the emotional impact. It's just the fact that, yeah, he was listening, and yeah, like, I'm sorry, Finney, that's kind of a jerk move. Just, you could tell them before they get into so much detail, about the, yeah. I really love the bit about, let's see, the thing about, I'm not a narc, and, that wasn't yours to tell. I don't think we should tell anybody about this. I haven't told anybody about um, and that's, yeah, like, Finney is becoming socially isolated. He is, like, it's basically just him and Gwen, and their dad, but he doesn't tell the dad that much, um, yeah, like, he's doing that fucking, yeah, loner individualist thing, he's acting like it's somehow going to just go away if he hides and smokes enough weed. He has to escape from it, and he's not processing it. And she keeps telling him, you have to talk to someone, which is, I'm not doing gender essentialism. I'm talking about how, like, it's socialization. A lot of young men are taught not to feel, much less communicate their feelings other than anger. And young women are taught, to communicate. There are, of course, exceptions, but yeah, and a lot of young men could learn from how young women are socialized. Yeah, my life got significantly better when I got better at communicating. And yeah, it happened when I was no longer around so many young guys. Until I turned 18, I was pretty much forced to be around young men my age, school and shit like that. And then after that, yeah, I was able to socialize some with young women, and my ability to communicate my feelings significantly improved, and yeah, I mean, I understand how, if you're a young man and you don't really socialize with women, or you try not to learn anything from them, yeah, of course you're going to remain bad at communicating, and it's going to hurt every relationship you have. Now, and the good news is you can improve. The wonderful thing about life is, as long as you're alive, you can make yourself better. There's no. It's impossible to reach a point where there's nothing good that you couldn't be at least a little better at. So you always have that motivation, you can always improve. It's just important to every so often stop, smell the roses, note, I made a lot of progress. I'm a better person now than I was, let's say 5 years ago. But don't focus so much on like fucking just pure exercise and like domination and anger and violence. Obviously, like, physical fitness is important. Like, we should all be physically healthy, um, which is not gonna improve under Maha. Now, I think, yeah, that pretty well brings us to the part where, let's see, what was the next thing? I guess there was a yeah. I think yeah. They know that there were killings there, so they go up to the place. Barbara. I love that several characters call her Barb, and she insists on Barbara. And yeah, like, right, and how everyone comments on, this is the girl who snuck into the boys, sleeping quarters. So they all know that it happened, and they're more upset about that. I mean, she keeps mentioning, so, kids disappeared here. We want to find out what happened. And Barb is like, but you're the girl who did the thing that I don't like. So no, I don't want things to improve because I don't like you. So I'm not going to help you make things better, and this is something you see so frequently from conservative Christians. Like, it's wild how reluctant they are to just accept people who are a little bit different. So yeah, I appreciated that bit of commentary here. And how, like, the guy who was more open to helping them, Mando, had been in prison. He made some mistakes in his youth. It cost him, and now he's trying to do better. He's trying to help. He says, I've dealt with a lot of kids who are angry, and I tried to help them. You don't have to end up like me. And that's, again, it can work really well when, if you have a young character who's going down a bad path, if you have a character who's a little older who went down that path and was like, that's not a good journey to take. Please don't make the same mistakes I did. So that was really good. And then the thing, hey, you're taking all my wheat. It's not even good shit, man. That was pretty funny. Yeah, he's trying to help kids. He can still recognize bad weed when he, yeah. Yeah, I think that does bring us to, so yeah, love the swearing that is, yeah, the mouth on Gwen is just, I'm never gonna tire of hearing her swear. What the fuck, Jesus? Jesus, what the fuck? It's wonderful. And oh, what a mouth you have on you. And did you always have such a mouth on you? And her reply is just fucking brutal. Holy shit. And also later, that someone else also points out, you swear a lot for your age. Maybe you need anger management. And then cut to Dave Rubin trying to be clever and edgy, dropping the C word. Wow. Yeah. I don't have more to add to. I think Majority Report did a really excellent commentary on his video. So I don't really have more to add. I just had to mention that how ridiculous him and Trump are in that video. Now, I think that does bring us to the, let's see. Um, yeah, we have I think, is that around the time where there's the big nightmare where she gets like slammed into shit and, Finney, rushes over and it's like, we can't see what's happening, and it's one of those things. I feel like, could someone maybe have tried a little sooner to get, it takes a while. For a while, they're just gawking at it, which, I don't know. I'm glad that the scene lasted as long as it did, and I did think it was cool to have them just stare in disbelief. I don't know. I feel like maybe there should have been some kind of, like, if Ernie ran over to try to help, and then the grabber did something, to make him fall, and then it takes a few seconds for him to get back up, and then he's there to, yeah. But there, holy shit, she almost got put in the oven, like we realized happened to the other kid. That was also the part where we see him like chopped up and burnt and scorched, and he puts his hand on her arm, and she's got the burn marks after, which is also reminiscent of. Is that a spoiler for that movie? I guess I'll just say it's not the only place I've seen that happen, but it didn't feel like a ripoff, rather an homage. Yeah, I really love the part where she like takes a few steps over to, first she looks under her bed and it's like, oh, thank God there's nothing. Oh shit, it's the other bed, isn't it? So she takes a few steps and looks, and the kid's there and starts moving even though he's clearly dead, and the burnt kid with the scorch marks, and there's still smoke there. Like, fuck me. That was really, holy shit. And yeah, the kid with the head just starting to split still, and yeah. Let's see. And the thing about, what happens if you die in your dream? And she's like, I'll just wake up. Are you sure about that? Let's find out. Just Jesus Christ. And yeah, like, holy shit, we actually never do find out, because no one does die during that. Yeah. Right. Others have already noted Dream Warriors. Reminiscent, yeah, love to see it. Yeah, I think, and it does, again, it feels so earned, because, like, yeah, she has these visions. The first one, she's a witness. In this one, she can actually interact. She communicated with her mom through the phone. And by the end of it, she realizes, oh, she's really, really fucking powerful in these dreams, So it's like they're almost evenly matched. Like, he might have, yeah, it's almost, yeah, almost evenly matched. Part of why he loses is he made so many enemies. He killed all these kids. The source of his power turned out to be his Achilles heel. I quite appreciate the, because I know sometimes I read too much into shit. Sue me. I feel like that's saying violence begets violence. If he hadn't killed those kids, yeah, he also wouldn't have been able to come back. But what is he coming back? Like, he's just coming back to commit more violence. What is he even trying to accomplish anymore? He's just, and he even says it. All he is sin and rage. He doesn't, like, what does he think is gonna happen here? Like, so what if he kills Finney and Gwen? Okay, so he got revenge. So what? He's still dead. Like, can he even affect anybody else? Like, it doesn't seem like like, I don't know if he just can't, or he just doesn't want to. I feel like if he could, he probably would, right? Because he would strengthen him. Isn't that the idea? I'm actually not entirely sure if it would or not, but he's a serial killer. He every so often feels the need to kill, and here he is. What's the word? He does instead focus on attacking for revenge. I did also appreciate the bit where we hear him say, look at what you made me do. You made me kill my own brother, the man I love more than anything in the world. That was also great when he's, when Finney goes up and picks up the phone, and at first, he's just several times early in the film, twice, I guess, he picks up a phone that's out of order and says, "I can't help you," and just hangs up because he just can't deal with he like I appreciate I love the choice of words. I can't help you. He doesn't say won't, and he doesn't say find somebody else to help you. He says I can't help you because he can't even help himself. He can't cope with having dealt with the grabber, so he can't help some ghost. He can, like, every so often some ghost does call him. So yeah, that was great. And then he does pick up and he's like, okay, what do you want? And it's the grabber, and he then appears also visually, and at one point he like locks Finney in, and Finney, like, the receiver ends up coming off, and he's lying there distraught, as just, yeah, he really it hits him hard when he's confronted with that. Yeah, I think that does bring us to the right. And also the thing about, so earlier Gwen asked, so what was that about? And he's like, new kid. So you just beat up the new kid for being new, which is like bully behavior. That's not becoming a man. That's being a bully. And he says, oh, but he started it. You still didn't need to beat him. And is the thing about, oh, he said, oh, you killed the grabber. You don't look so tough. And that justifies beating him. It's so he is still, like, he didn't really escape from. He has improved his status, but he didn't escape this cycle of violence. In the first one, he was the one being beaten. Now he's the one beating people, but that doesn't make it better. And the movie criticizes it. Like, the first one was also critical of the beatings, but it did seem to say now he can defend himself, and that's, being a man means being violent. Again, I don't think the movie meant to say that, but it ends up coming across as though it is. I think that does bring us to the, yeah, I love when Gwen shows, look, I got burns from the dream, and let's see, I think that might bring us to the yeah, the thing. Yeah, I love Gwen asserting herself. Finney is like, we can't work with Ernie, and she's like, why do you think I brought him? He's gonna help us find the kids. Because again, Finney, like, he thinks at this point in the movie that social isolation is good. He's at the top. He has nothing to worry about. He doesn't need anybody else. But by the end of the movie, it's been proven, no, he did. Like, Ernie does really come through for them. So yeah, I quite appreciated that. I think that does bring us to the, so yeah, they're all assembled, and Gwen lays her cards on the table, and Barb is like, devil child, she's got the devil in her, and I think it's Mustang who's like, would you shut the fuck up? Like, what is wrong with you? She's helping us, and all you can see is, oh, it's of the devil. Let's see, if it's of the devil and it's helping people, what does that say about Christ, that he's not the one helping people? Like, yeah. As mentioned, I have issues with conservative Christians and their reluctance to accept new things that are, in the case of the powerful members, not enriching or otherwise increasing their power. And in way too many cases, allowing them to do horrible things, including being a sexual predator. Now, I think that does... Right. Okay, I just gotta also mention, so Queen Coke Francis did a video recently. Let's see. You are invited to a Trump-tastic birthday party, and it's just fucking amazing. Yeah. Uh, Only fairly recently started watching Francis, but it's fantastic videos. And sometimes extremely important ones. Some of them are just mostly fun, but Francis did one about the Hays Code. Extremely important. Like, we should never forget. Yeah. And I think that brings us to the part where, so yeah, they all understand what's going on. And so they agree. Okay, we watch Gwen, and we find the kids. And there's the thing about ice, and that was also, God, when we see one of them float up and write a letter, and like their face is like cleaved into or something. Just Jesus fucking Christ, that was so fucking creepy. Yeah, she. And I appreciate there's at least one point where she says, "Oh, she accidentally fell asleep." Accidentally, my ass. And yeah, goddamn. When okay, we're almost at the big climactic thing, but before that, I just got to talk about. So yeah, the grabber wants to hurt her, so he shows that he was the one who killed, and that was so fucking creepy. The bit where so he like come on into the van, and she gets in the van, and then she's sitting there, and like the other that's so fucking, yeah, I love it. So the flashback, it has the grabber driving, but the grabber from the ghost grabber is in the back seat with Gwen, and yeah, he shows her he was the one that killed their mother. She did not commit suicide. And it's one of those things where right now I'm honestly not 100% sure how exactly I feel about this retcon, because obviously it technically qualifies as a retcon, whether you like that or not, whether I realize for some people the word retcon purely has a negative connotation, but really it should just be neutral. Like, yeah, retroactive continuity. We if you only watch the first movie, you are led to believe that she killed herself. In this one, it's changed to murder instead of suicide, and I I definitely do appreciate that. You have the thing about, you said, what did you do? And then what did I do? You blamed yourself, but it's not your fault. It is extremely important that we realize, sometimes when someone commits suicide, the people close to them will try to, figure out, what did I do that led to this, or what could I have done to prevent it? And it's such a harmful, like, okay, everybody grieves in different ways, but it is important to try to avoid destructive and self-destructive behavior. Don't try to think about things like that. Ultimately, when someone commits suicide, if we are talking about actual suicide, if we're not talking about someone else killing them, then to at least some extent, it was the person committing suicide's own decision. Like, short of, okay, hypothetically, if there are sometimes a person that commits suicide had a mental health issue, and obviously if the diagnosis has been made by a mental health professional, and you choose to ignore because a mental health professional, you know a lot of the time will come right out and say, you have to carefully watch this person and talk to them a lot and make sure they're not even considering suicide, because if they start thinking about it, they might go through with it. um, you know and obviously in a situation like that, if you then choose to ignore it and say, I don't believe, as some conservatives sadly have, um, I really don't like when people say this person is to blame for someone else's suicide. That is really, really, it is almost never the case. One situation where it can be is if you trick the person into taking, I'm not an expert on um, drugs. I know, big fan of Thought Slime. Thought Slime did a video where they talked about various drugs. I'm not an expert, but I know there are some that can make you think of doing things that you really shouldn't, including suicide. Shit. To be clear, this is not some dare, just say no bullshit. The war on drugs was a cover for, Nixon used it to, go after his political enemies, and Reagan used it to, there's shit. I forget the details, but just you can like Google it. But it's been used by powerful people in America so that they could enrich themselves, and it was not about helping people. So that's not what I'm doing here. I'm not. But yeah, if you trick someone into taking drugs that could, because ultimately, if they know that it might have that effect and they choose to do it, then again, that's their decision. But if you trick them into taking something that can really fuck with their head and have them do something that could kill them, in that situation, one can talk about someone else being to blame. But the vast majority of the time, just try not to think like that. It's, listen, I've been there, but you gotta, it's such a, try to avoid it. And again, if you need to talk to someone, talk to someone. Don't try to, don't try to be the stoic male that just handles all this without help from anyone. Accept help from other people. Um, yeah. I don't know. Right now, I'm not sure exactly how I feel about the retcon, but I do love everything else they did with the mother character in this. I don't think it's a problem for the first movie that she didn't appear in that one. I love that she was included in this one. That's again one of those things. Like they sat down and thought, what can we add? If we're gonna make another movie in this, if we're gonna make this a series, if we're gonna do two movies with the same, some of the same cast and like, same title and shit, what can we actually bring to the second one? And yeah, having her actually be a character, having conversations between the two of them, like they talk, see, at least twice. I guess is it three times total? Um, just fantastic. And that last conversation, goddamn, that fucking got to me. Jesus, like a just dagger to the heart. God damn it, Scott Derrickson really knows what he's doing. Holy shit. Yeah, I think that does that bring us to the ending. But yeah, I did really appreciate her talking to the two men and family, and making it clear, making sure, yeah, by the end of the movie, Dad is 100% accepting of, okay, yeah, she can see things and they are real, and um, and certainly, like, it definitely changes things, because like we thought, until we saw it, we thought the mother committed suicide because she could not take all the horrible visions she had, and then we find out that's not at all the case. Um, it does change things. yeah, I think that brings us to the ending. Yeah. So yeah, I love so yeah, they're able to find one kid, and then they search every fucking where, and they just can't find him. And it's like, further down, depth, and yeah, that's such a clever and god damn it. So yeah, oh, she accidentally fell asleep, accidentally my ass, and she's down there, and she fucking finds them and gets them to the surface, and when the sleep the version of her from her dream, Dream Gwen, is underwater in the icy water. Real Gwen like freezes up, and that was established right at the start. You're freezing cold because she was just at the in the vision, she was at the summer camp, the camp with the snow and shit. So yeah, here by the end, and it's this thing of like, I mean, shit, she might literally die if she doesn't stop sleepwalking soon. Shit, not sleepwalking. I guess dream warrioring. Let's go with that. If she doesn't stop doing that soon enough, or if she doesn't get out of the water at least soon enough, the real Gwen is going to fucking freeze to death. She's like covered in water, icy cold, in an already cold climate. It's not like she's inside with the toasty thingamajigs. Um, and also the part where, oh my god, Mando, yeah. So he's like, well, Grabber's like, well, I mean, if I'm threatened, I'm sorry, I invoke castle doctrine. I protect myself, and he drags Mando into the water. And it's just, oh no. Scott, holy shit. I hope that you're not like having nightmares like this in real life. I hope you are very happy and healthy in real life. But god damn, you are amazing at coming up with shit like that, because like, I'm sorry, that's one of the worst ways to die. Underwater in icy water, because it's like, you don't drown. Let's see, I read somewhere, shit, I don't know, maybe it was exaggerated, but I heard something about that if you drown in ice water, your body doesn't drown as fast as if it's warmer water, so yeah, that's Jesus Christ. But they managed to get him out, and check for a pulse. He's moving and everything. Just Jesus Christ. And yeah, they get the bodies up to the surface, and at least one of them reaches their arm and grabs his calf, cow, and yeah, just fucking holy shit. Let's see. Yeah, I love when he pulls off the mask and it just exposes, so it's just his teeth. You don't see his lips anymore, and Gwen is like, "You can't live with this," and he's like, "I'm learning to live with a lot of things." And the top of the, and we see the exposed, and it does look, you can see that, yeah, he was beaten to death by Finney. His head is still all fucked up from that. Yeah. So turns out the dream killer was working maintenance. Where have I heard that before? And that was also I thought it was interesting to get a little bit more information about him. He has a real name now, and he had a job before this, but he was serial killing even back then. He let's see, yeah, he was serial killing for a long time there. And because of Gwen, now all of, if I understand correctly, all of every single kid he killed, which is every single person, has now, their bodies have all been found. So yeah, I thought they did a really great job of setting up the stakes there. If they are able to free all the bodies, they will be able to kill. They still have to kill him, but they won't be able to kill him if they don't find the 3 bodies. And so while the Dream Warrior shit is going on, and yeah, he's dangerous. He could really kill her. You also have the humans going out, and some of them have to save Mando, and they're trying to find the 2 missing bodies by then. By then they're down to 2. I don't know that I loved the visual of him skating. I appreciate that it means he can move really fast on ice, which is normally, if you've played a video game, ice makes you slide weird and maybe not move quite as effectively and as you'd otherwise like. But yeah, I'm sorry. I think at least once in every horror movie that he's made, I'm not going to spoil the other movies here. I think I talk about it in each video anyway. I haven't done a video on it. The only movie he's made that I have watched that I haven't done a video on is his Hellraiser movie. Probably not going to do that one. I just don't know that I have anything. Honestly, Deus Deacon's video on it says basically everything I would say, so just watch that one. I don't know that I'm ever going to do videos on the sequels. I might do the remake if I can get access to it. Last I checked, it wasn't on Disney Plus of Hellraiser. I forgot to say that, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'm sorry. I think each of these horror movies of his that I've watched has at least one really silly idea or image. Yeah, here it's the ice skates, and I do appreciate it was set up verbally. One of them says, "Oh, he was really fast on those ice skates," and then we see, and I appreciate the fact that he appears from afar and moves closer up, and he's like, it's scary to have someone come closer and closer to you. I appreciate how much of the fear here was derived not so much from fear of the person's death, but being upset that others have died and are have not been their bodies have not been buried properly. And yeah, so many characters in this are not really afraid for their own life. They worry about Gwen, and I do think yeah, you can derive a lot of horror from the idea of what if this person that's important to me dies. What if I can't protect them? Another movie that does that really well is 28 Days Later. Yeah, I think that does pretty well. And there's definitely is also a theme in 28 Weeks Later. And 28 Years Later. Anyway, moving on. I think... What's left? I know there's something more that I really wanted to comment on. Let's see. I think... Oh shit! I gotta just briefly say. So the part when Gwen is laying it all on the table, with her dad, and Finn, I honestly worried that he was gonna hit her because he seems to only know how to solve his problems with violence or weed, and Mando took his weed. And I really felt like the way he's standing there and he keeps saying, "Stop talking," because he can't face it. He can't, and he even says, "You think I don't know that it was real? I can't think about anything else." And that's a sign that he needs to talk to someone about it. He keeps, and she said it at the start of the movie, you have to talk to someone about it, and he refuses to. That's why he can't stop thinking about it, because he hasn't processed it at all. He's just hiding from it. It's not that he thinks that it didn't happen. It's that he can't really accept, he doesn't know how to cope. And that means he needs community. And I think Yeah, I'll just briefly note, I think part of the reason that I didn't feel preached to about Christianity in this movie, Barb is the preachiest character, and everyone tells her to shut the fuck up. So, like, yeah, I don't know. I will acknowledge there's that bit where everyone's talking and there's like a giant cross center frame, and I think Mando's walking back, pacing back and forth in front of it. That was pretty on the nose, bit of, but I don't know. I didn't feel, yeah. And let's see. I think, yeah. Let's see. So the big, you have the big fight, and yeah, can't have a Black Phone movie end without Finney smashing the grabber's head. In this one, he doesn't have he didn't receive a receiver. He just grabs him by the back of his head and smashes his face into the ice repeatedly. Like, Jesus Christ. And I really appreciate, he doesn't do it alone. He doesn't go it alone. She helps. Without her, I don't think he would have been able to. And yeah, the thing about, well, there's an arm grabbing his leg. There's an axe right here. We just chop off his leg. He's like screaming in pain, and they push him in, and he just sinks down to the depths. Jesus Christ. I also thought they did a good job on, because, okay, so these bodies have been down there. What did they say? 1952? 30 years? Okay, let's see. 30 years frozen in ice, underwater, and there is still some bones left. I don't know. That might, I mean, it's fantasy, so I can accept it. It might not be 100% realistic, but it was a very effective, like, it's one of those things, like, as soon as you hear it, it's like, well, shit, that is a good place to hide a body. And obviously, if you make a mental note for personal use, please seek help. But also just the idea, again, like, of them being down there, and it is, again, like, it's off-putting, it's disturbing, and there's the visual, and then also just the fucking disrespect. Like, he really doesn't care about which, I mean, okay, is obviously not the most disrespectful thing. He also murders them, but just, yeah, it helps to really solidify. Like, I love to hate the grabber in both of these movies, and that's very much to the credit of Scott Derrickson. And same, I'm not gonna name names, but in Sinister, similar situation. Did not mean for the alliteration. Yeah, I think that might pretty well cover. Is there anything left about the climax? No, I think that that covers. But yeah, I thought I already mentioned. So in this one, they're isolated in this one place and such. I thought that worked well as a contrast to how in the first one, it was really only Finney who had his movement restricted. And it was a much smaller area. Here they have a lot of freedom of movement. Yeah, in the first one, like, other than that, there's not really any, physical isolation. Almost on the contrary, essentially Gwen could ride her bike wherever the fuck she wanted, which is perhaps part of how she is able to find him, because she doesn't just go with what she's allowed to, And yeah, having, oh shit, I already said that at the start of the video. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, I think that covers. Yeah, I thought the climax was built too wonderfully, and it was just complicated enough that it was deeply engaging. It's the kind of thing, you know, 20, 30 years ago, you wouldn't have needed it to be quite as complicated, but today you kind of do. It would feel small. I don't think the ending of the first one felt small. It felt earned. It was built to. But this is at least slightly bigger movie. That's the kind of thing when you do a sequel. Sometimes it works well, and here I think it does. Yeah, they have some freedom of movement. It's a bigger area than Finney was trapped in the first one, and so they're able to search for the missing kids' bodies, Um, that wouldn't work as well if they were confined to a very small area, but the bodies were there. Okay, so it's kind of easier to find them then. Um, yeah, I think that does pretty well. Yeah, as a far lefty, I do love that so much of the good that happens in the movie is, headed, the person driving towards that is a young woman who does get some support from the men in her life, but it's her idea. They wouldn't have gone to the camp if not for her. And like what she just has to keep having these vision nightmares without getting to help, like that's really fucked. That's a horrible situation for her to be in. In addition to the bodies not being found and them being stuck in purgatory. That was also the great when the call and for different voices, and suddenly they're right by they're essentially surrounding, I think, the phone booth, and they're banging on the burn marks and smoke coming from that. Yeah, fantastic design. One of my favorite of when Scott Derrickson comes up with some visual of someone that is in some fucked up situation. The burns, yeah, one of the best. The guy with the face coming up, head coming apart, is also really effective. Yeah, I think that's the entire climax covered. Yeah, I really appreciated that they did not try to just turn the grabber into Freddy. He doesn't even feel like just like early Freddy. There's a bunch of stuff in for example, the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie that is not even remotely in this one. Um, yeah, they weren't trying to turn the grabber into Freddy. They were bringing the grabber back in a way that is reminiscent of Freddy, inspired by Freddy. But he's still the grabber. He still behaves in a very similar way, thinks the same. Just like, yeah, he likes to play with his victims. With Finney, he keeps showing up and saying cryptic things and staring at him and all this kind of thing. With Gwen, he shows that he killed her mother. These, yeah. Um, I think that pretty well covers. Um, yeah. So I quite liked, so when they're driving home, yeah, Finney and Dad are like, I kind of like that Ernie guy. Yeah, me too. Because yeah, by now, I mean, he's thoroughly demonstrated, and that's again, I really loved. He was not a fucking tourist. He actually really contributed. He was the one who noticed those tattoos are very interesting for a camp counselor. I think wasn't that Mando's title, something like that. And yeah, helped rescue Gwen, and yeah, just various things, really, really nicely done. Let's see, I think, uh, yeah, and then because he's a dad, he's like, so that Mustang girl, are you interested in her or what? It's just wow. Yeah, very, very dad behavior. And that's also, I'm so glad. I want to say his name is Jeremy Davies. I'm so glad he's still acting. Uh, if I'm not remembering wrong, Million Dollar Hotel, him and Mila Jovovich, and I think also Mel Gibson, phenomenal acting. And that's, again, one of those things, like, whenever I hear someone say, oh, Mila Jovovich can't act, you're watching the wrong Mila Jovovich movies. Million Dollar Hotel, Caliber 45, yeah, certain of her movies, maybe especially the indie stuff. I appreciate some of the Hollywood ones. I don't know. I think maybe sometimes she's just miscast. Anyway, But the yeah, that was like 25 years ago or something. $1 Million Hotel, I think. So really, really glad that he's still acting. He's still so fucking good. Like him breaking down when he hears the truth about his wife's death. Yeah, just incredible. And it's so that scene could so easily have fallen into melodrama because there's so many reveals and so many emotional turns, and somehow it doesn't end up, at least to me, maybe other people felt differently, but yeah, I'm one of those people. To me, soap opera and melodrama can be just neutral descriptors. They don't have to be negative. I think here it would have been negative. I would not want this to just become a soap opera, and I don't think it did. Which credit to the direction, writing, acting. Yeah, I think that does. Yeah, we're almost at Way's End. Let's see. We have the yeah. Um, that last conversation between mom and yeah. And right, I did also really appreciate the thing about so mom had visions. I don't know if it's even a retcon to say, but yeah, her visions were also of people the grabber killed. I don't know. Is it a retcon? Maybe it is a retcon. Whatever. I don't feel like going over whether or not it is. I think that really worked. So basically, yeah. The women in that family line, I don't know if it's the grabbers specifically. I guess, okay, hypothetically, if they were, I hope they don't, but if they were to try to make this a franchise, I guess they could pull shit, I guess that's a spoiler for that show. Okay, there's okay, I'll keep it vague. There's a specific element in Prison Break where one character is amazing at a specific thing, and so he starts just being like hired for that, and it feels like, okay, you're just trying to make the show longer, which is like, I love the show. I love all seasons of that show, including season 5. If they ever make a season 6, but I get, I don't want to, let's see. I forget his name, but the actor who plays Michael Scofield, I've heard that he doesn't, let's see, he is not straight, so he no longer wants to play straight characters. I 100% understand and support him in that, and I think it's wonderful that the co-star who plays Lincoln um, has supported him in that. That's wonderful. We gotta have more of that. He's also a surprisingly good writer. He wrote Stoker, which like did not expect a movie like that to come out of out of him, but yeah, incredible talent. Anyway, yes. So, hypothetically, they could pull that. They could have, you know, okay, the grabber's gone, but there's other serial killers, and she's having dreams that lead to fuck. You could make a goddamn TV show out of it. Maybe season long, maybe one-off episodes, but she's using her psychic powers to hunt serial killers, and just I fucking hope they don't. Shit, did I just reinvent, what's it called again? 1-800-missing? I guess that's not serial killing, that's missing people, but yeah, psychic abilities used to. I enjoy that show fine. Both seasons. I was yeah. Anyway, but yeah, phone conversation, and yeah, her acting is phenomenal. And she just breaks down as mom, and this, will I have this curse forever? It was never a curse. It was beautiful, just like you. And the three kids the grabber killed are now in heaven where they belong with mom. And it's like, my God, I don't. Okay, maybe it's just me. Maybe other people hate this scene, but I am amazed this didn't become cheesy and corny of a scene. Like, maybe it's just me. Let me know. Drop me a note in the comments if you fucking despise the scene, or even just mildly disagree with me on how amazing I think it is. But yeah, and yeah, she says, you really did something amazing here. She's like, I couldn't save them. No, but you did. They're in heaven now. And that again, like, we have to, I'm not religious, but we have to try to focus on the things we can do instead of the things we can't. We doomerism is so detrimental. We have to. I'm really really stoked on Positive Leftist News, that YouTube channel. They do a really solid job of helping cheer us lefties up, with pointing out, hey, here's some victories we had. They even, like, the opening says, we apologize for interrupting your doom scrolling. Yeah, I think, does that pretty well cover? Yeah. And yeah, she, mom says, wait, am I remembering it? Was the mom's name Hope? Okay, that's slightly corny, if I'm remembering it right, that the mom's name is Hope. Although, wait, I guess it's almost kind of bitterly ironic because, okay, she does inspire some hope, but she's also dead. She was dead for 7 years before the move. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, she says, I know it seems like your brother is handling the loss of me better than you are, but he's not. He needs you. And, you know, tell your brother I love him. And Robin says hi, and I'm just like, okay, stop. God damn it. Would you just, can you not slice onions right up in my face like that, please? And yeah, you know, it's the last time she'll be able to talk to her. And yeah, Gwen gets to say goodbye to her mom. And she hangs up and she goes out and, gets really close to Finn's face, and her words. We don't hear them, but I'm a really excellent lip reader. So what she says is, I know what was whispered at the end of the Bill Murray Scarlett Johansson movie. No, seriously though, what she actually says is, I talked to Mom, and she had something very important for me to tell you. She said I'm her favorite, and it's not even close.